SDG Goal 16. The SDG Goal 16 describes about peace, justice and strong institutions and is classified into 12 types. In this video, we will be focusing on target 16.1. SDG Goal 16.1 focuses on the topic reduce violence everywhere. It can also be defined as significantly reduce all forms of violence and related death rates everywhere. SDG Goal 16.1 is further classified into 4 types. SDG Goal 16.1.1 talks about victims of homicide. SDG Goal 16.1.2 talks about conflict-related deaths. SDG Goal 16.1.3 explains on the victims of physical, psychological or sexual violence. SDG Goal 16.1.4, which is the last one, describes about people's safety when walking alone after dark. The SDG Goal 16.1.1 can be defined as the number of victims of international homicide per 100,000 population by their sex and age. What do you think about homicides? A homicide occurs when one person kills another person. It can also be referred to as murders, assassinates, or killing a person. El Salvador, officially known as the Republic of El Salvador, is a country in Central America. The latest reports indicate that El Salvador is the country with highest homicide rate. It has a homicide rate of 52.02 per 100,000 inhabitants, making it the most dangerous country to reside in. Japan is an island country in East Asia. Latest reports reveal that Japan is the country with lowest homicide rate of 0.2, thus making it the safest country in the world to live in. The United Arab Emirates, or simply the UAE, is a country in the Middle East. Latest reports of 2020 indicate that UAE was ranked as the 3rd safest country in the world with a homicide rate of 0.5. Measures to prevent homicides. 1. Implement strict policies on alcohol. There is a link between alcohol and violence. A study done in 2010 found that alcohol stores are strongly linked to gun assaults. Being in possession of a gun while drunk is therefore not allowed. Policies can be implemented to limit issues related to alcohol in America and other countries across the world. Some of the policies can be high taxes on alcohol, minimizing the number of alcohol outlets. 2. Eliminate illegal drugs to reduce impact. Drugs have a high impact on murders and other crimes. Excessive use of drugs has driven users to cause violence, crimes, and insecurity around the globe. All anti-violence initiatives should also focus on fighting hard drugs and the results of long-term use. 3. Spread awareness about murders. Governments and citizens need to use various methods, including campaigns and technology, to reach every individual and warn them about the effects of crime. Every individual needs to feel important and appreciated in the society to reduce the number of people who feel neglected. Otherwise, they can easily develop bizarre behaviors inclined towards committing crimes and murders. 4. Fight identity theft. Identity theft is another factor that can in one way or the other lead to other crimes and even worse murders. It ranges from financial criminal, medical, synthetic, driver's license, and insurance identity thefts. Criminals can steal your identity and use it to commit crimes including murder. They also leave the trails of other crimes. Smart criminals can use identity theft to commit criminals so that they can hide from being identified and charged. The following are some ways you can help reduce identity theft. Destroy pieces of evidence showing your personal information such as your account statements and education certificates. Don't leave trails like your debit and credit card receipts behind. Live a private life and avoid giving your personal information to anybody, especially on social media. Get used to creating strong passwords for your accounts. SDG Goal 16.1.2. The SDG Goal 16.1.2 can be defined as the conflict-related deaths per 100,000 population. What is conflict-related deaths? Conflict-related deaths or battle-related deaths are the deaths in the battle-related conflicts between warring parties, usually involving armed forces. The Russo-Ukrainian War. Ukraine has become the bone of contention between Washington and Moscow. Russia wants the West to keep Ukraine and other former Soviet nations out of NATO, halt weapons deployments near Russian borders and roll back forces from Eastern Europe. Ukraine wants to join NATO, which has not gone well with Russia. Russia thinks if Ukraine is allowed to join NATO, the group would move closer to Russia's borders. If Ukraine joins NATO, it is eligible to get support from the group's members in case of external attacks. So Russia believes Ukraine could attempt to take back Crimea if it joins NATO. Putin too expressed his concern in this regard recently. Hence, Russia demands the West to stay out of Ukraine as Putin wants to restore Moscow's influence throughout the post-Soviet space. Moreover, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia lost control of 14 former republics, including Ukraine. Putin considers this impact. The impact on the Russo-Ukrainian War has affected people locally and internationally. There has been starvation of people in the Ukraine due to heavy war damages. A lot of people lost their jobs. Russia's invasion on Ukraine is having a direct impact on the global food security and affordability. The European Union is forced to reduce gas consumption as Russia is the main supply of gas, and there might be chances that Russia will slowly cut the gas supply. From the start of invasion, there has been a sharp increase in world prices for key commodities, in particular fuels. Concerns have grown over the security of both energy and food supply in both the European Union and worldwide. Upon all of this, a lot of international students have come to Ukraine for further studies, but now their life is in danger. Measures to prevent armed conflicts. Armed conflicts can be prevented by signing peace agreements, by compromises, and can also be solved by the United Nations. SDG Goal 16.1.3. The SDG Goal 16.1.3 can be defined as the proportion of population subjected to physical, psychological, and sexual violence. Do you have any idea about what is physical, psychological, and sexual violence. Physical violence. Physical violence occurs when a person hurts or tries to hurt another person by physical force. Psychological violence. Psychological violence takes place when a person threatens another person using children, job, or even your life. Sexual violence. Sexual violence is any sexual act or an attempt to obtain a sexual act by violence. It is also an act to traffic a person or an act directed against a person's sexuality, regardless of the relationship to the victim. The current diagram indicates about the percent of people in the world who have faced this violence. About 13.7% of the world have faced psychological violence, 5.2% have faced physical violence, and 3.9% have faced sexual violence. 9.1% of the world have faced both physical and psychological violence. 3.3% have faced both sexual and psychological violence, and 1.7% have faced both sexual and physical violence. And finally, about 6.9% of the world have faced all three kinds of violence. SDG Goal 16.1.4. The SDG Goal 16.1.4 can be defined as the proportion of population who feel safe while walking alone around the area they live after dark. Why do people do not feel safe walking alone after dark? People are afraid of trafficking, kidnapping, murders, theft, or violence, so they avoid coming out of dark, especially women. How do people overcome this fear? The government can take action by placing high-resolution CCTV cameras, and they can also appoint police officers to take care that nothing happens wrong in each village. The roads can be replaced with better lighting systems too.